Call to order the regular meeting of the Dickinson City Commission for Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. Let the record show that Commissioner Oderman is not present. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for attending this evening. First item this evening is the order of business. Mr. Dossinger, are there any changes to the order of business?
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the Commission. There is no change to the order of business this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Dossinger. Any questions on the order of business as presented? If not, I look for a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Frederick,
Second?
second by Commissioner Soboluk. Any further discussion on the order of business? Hearing none, all in favor of the order of business as presented, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item is the consent agenda. Commissioners, are there any items on the consent agenda you wish to discuss? There are no items on the consent agenda you wish to discuss. I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bear,
Second?
second by Commissioner Soboluk. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, we'll vote. Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mrs. Soboluk?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We'll move into administration and finance. First item this evening, we have a gaming site authorization for Dickinson youth activities at Buffalo Wild Wings. This will be presented by City Administrator Dossinger.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Commission. We do have a gaming site authorization request from Dickinson Youth Activities. This would be located at Buffalo Wild Wings, located at 3545 West Ridge Drive. The effective date of this would be July 1st of 2024 to June 30th of 2025. This would be for electronic pull-tab devices only. City staff has reviewed the request and recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Dossinger. Any questions on this gaming site? There
Sorry, Mr. President, I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Frederick,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bear. Any further discussion on Dickinson Youth Activities Gaming Site? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mrs. Soboluk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We'll have a presentation this evening. This is our Renaissance Zone 10-year extension. This will be presented by City County Planner Josephson.
Good evening, President Decker, Commissioners. This is Steve Josephson. So what you have before you is that's a memorandum of understanding between the City of Dickinson and the State Department of Commerce to extend the time period of the Renaissance Zone from, it's set to expire at the end of June, and this would take it through 10 years. You did approve the resolution to extend the Renaissance Zone, and Department and Commerce received it and sent this memorandum of agreement back. The city attorney has already approved it, so all it requires is to authorization to sign it, and then we will send it back to the Department of Commerce. I think it's fairly straightforward.
Thank you, Mr. Josephson. Any questions on this Renaissance Zone 10-year extension MOA?
Now I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bear,
Second?
second by Commissioner Sobeluk. Any further discussion on the MOA? Hearing none, we'll vote. Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. As soon as we get the signed copy, we'll send that on to the state.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next presentation will be by our Dickinson Fire Department, Chief Personnel, Captain Rhodey, and this is involving the Dickinson EMS presentation.
Thank you, President Decker and Commissioners. I'm before you tonight to present a plan for the Dickinson Fire Department to transition to fire-based EMS. I'll go through some of the background of why we're here, and then through some of the more specific details and how that's going to look as we move forward.
Chief, you might want to speak into the mic so people behind you can hear. Sorry.
So back in January, a representative from the Dickinson Area Ambulance approached the county stating that the owner was looking for an exit strategy because he wanted to retire. So the county did approach the city. We put together a work group to kind of discuss this on how we move forward. We presented a couple of options, and the group decided to move forward with the option I'm going to present tonight, and that's fire-based EMS. So just a quick overview of what the response district looks like for the ambulance currently. That in purple is everything that the current ambulance service provides 911 ambulance response to, and we would continue to provide to that same area. It does include about 373 people in Dunn County. It does cross that line, and then it goes all the way down into Leffer. So the incident data for the last 4 years, they're running approximately about 2,500 calls average. Last year they did run 2,700 calls as a total, but that does include transfers, which they're running approximately 700 transfers. How that breaks down, I'm not completely sure, but that could be a transfer from the hospital to Bismarck, a hospital to a retirement home, or to some other facility locally, or all the way to Billings. So currently, here's a list of the equipment that the ambulance service has, and this would be part of that purchase agreement that we're currently working on. That $959,633,000, $633,000 is the maximum we would have to pay. We're still working through the purchase agreement, kind of coming up with the finer details. It is with the city attorney. She's looking it over, and we still do have to meet and agree on that price. But this could go down. It should not go any higher up. But that does include a 2022 ambulance. And just to note, a remount is when they just replace the chassis. The back of the ambulance is from an older ambulance that they had. They took that, put it on a different chassis, because that box is still usually pretty good. So you can usually get through a few different remounts. And as you can see, their two newest ambulances are remounts. But you kind of, as we move down the list, we kind of get higher in age. They're putting on approximately about 50,000 miles a year on those ambulances. A lot of that mileage does include transfers down the road. So it is something to consider when we look at that stuff. The equipment, that's all the equipment on the ambulances, stair chairs, backboards, stretchers, all that stuff. Though that's what that line item equipment is. And then the consumables and drugs, that's going to be pretty much anything that has a shelf life, bandages, any medications, because we would be moving to an ALS ambulance service. We would have narcotics and other drugs on site. So that is also included in that purchase price. So how would that look for the fire department? We would continue to run in the same area that the ambulance service has. Essentially, for the public, the only difference is they would see the fire department there instead of the ambulance service. We're going to run 3 full-time ambulances 24/7. We will hire a division chief that will run the EMS division, and then each ambulance will be staffed with a paramedic and a firefighter EMT. So we would have to hire 9 paramedics and 6 more firefighter EMTs. Part of the reason we decided to go this route as a group was because of the current infrastructure of the fire department with the stations, with the staffing we currently have, we don't have to hire as many people to meet those staffing needs. A lot of our firefighters are already EMTs on the full-time side, and even some of our part-time firefighters, so they would essentially rotate through being on the ambulance for a month and then back on the fire side, so we don't need as many firefighter EMTs. The paramedics is something we do lack at this time, and we would need to hire one for each ambulance, each shift. So that does come out to 9, and then that division chief to cover it. In addition to those positions, we would need to hire an administrative assistant or executive assistant, because your records requests for medical records and stuff like that go through the roof as compared to what the fire department's used to. So there would have to be somebody dedicated to that kind of stuff. And then with the annual training required, once you get into EMS, we're also going to need a training position that's going to focus solely on recertification, getting our people trained, and going through all that stuff annually. So for initial capital, I'll break it down by year what that's going to look like. All this stuff that I'm going to present now is broken down by year 2 where that would come into play, but this is just overall capital. So right off the bat, we'd like to get 2 new ambulances coming. Just like fire trucks, there's significant delays in ordering ambulances. So we're not 100% sure how long it'll take to get those. Plus, as you've seen, is that current list, some of those ambulances are getting up there in age. So we'd like to get 2 new ambulances on their way. We'd like to get the equipment for 2 new ambulances. And as part of this, we would prefer everybody to be a firefighter EMT, and any of those paramedics that want to be firefighters, we would also encourage that and put them through that training. So we want to get them to protective clothing. So that's essentially getting them all brand new bunker gear. Then uniforms, we're going to have to completely outfit all these new team members in uniforms. And for the EMS side, you tend to get them dirty going to calls with all kinds of different things. So they could possibly go through multiple uniforms in a day. So they do need quite the complement of uniforms. There is going to be required some station equipment, some additional beds, other stuff to facilitate the additional staffing. I will point out at this time, we built this plan based on our current setup. So we can support what this plan with our current stations, how we're set up now. With this does not take into account having to bring on any additional buildings or anything like that. We can operate and run out of the current facilities. There's going to be a lot of initial training and aids that we're going to have to get. As you can imagine, the mannequins required for an ALS response are very, very filled with technology, and they are a little pricey, so we're going to have to initially purchase that stuff so we can do a lot of our training in-house, a lot of skills updates and stuff like that. And then any of our staff that do want to become paramedics, we are looking at potentially sending some people to become paramedics as we kind of get going down the line. And then as a request per the dispatch center, the radios that the ambulance service bought are not, they don't seem to be compatible with the radio system, so they have asked that we replace all those radios with the Motorola's because that's what the system is working with. So that does include that. Just a small note, we would be eligible for that $1,500 radio reimbursement, so we'd approximately get about $33,000 back once we actually purchase those radios. So this is fully staffed personnel. So that EMS division chief, it is a chief level position. And a lot of the numbers that we got were based on what the market is in North Dakota. We did consult with some of the area departments or ambulance services that are either fire-based EMS at this time or just provide solely EMS services. So this is what we felt would keep us competitive and draw people to Dickinson. So that's where all these numbers came from. And then the totals are based off of 30% benefited, the benefit costs included in that salary. So for 2024, we'd be looking at that purchase. Like I said, that's the maximum number we would pay. And based on the purchase agreement, that would not all be due in 2024. That is spread out. I believe there is an amount that would be due immediately upon signing if the commission approved that. And then it does include those 2 new ambulances, the equipment, the training aids, the station equipment. It does include half the salary of that division chief. There is some overtime built in there, not for the division chief, because as I'll talk about that later, that division chief is going to be an exempt position. But there is other staff time involved that we would want to cover some of that additional overtime that wasn't anticipated. It will include the associations. We want that division chief involved in all the state and national EMS associations, and then medical direction. They can charge up to $10,000 for that. So that is included in that. And then, of course, those radios. So then for 2025, we would have to take on that full salary for that division chief. We'd be looking at bringing those paramedics on in June, and the firefighter EMTs on in June, as well as that training officer. We'd look at that executive assistant in January. So that is that full salary for that position. And then overtime that may arise in that. And then that's when we're going to have to get those uniforms and gear. Again, the associations and medical direction, and then we're going to have to do a really big push on recruitment and advertising. That's about half of that cost there, and then that also includes pre-employment physicals for all the brand new employees we bring on. And then for 2026, we're fully operational. This would be the budget for 2026. So again, that EMS division chief, the full salaries for the paramedics, the firefighters, that training officer, the executive assistant, the overtime, and then the association and medical direction. We need to start building in that equipment maintenance and apparatus maintenance, telephone and radios. You do have to replace batteries even after we got the brand new radios. Those batteries do tend to go out. So we do budget for that, and there's also the need for cell phones for each ambulance and some iPad services used as MDTs. And as we continue on for 2026, we've dropped that advertising down. Inevitably, we're probably going to be losing some people throughout that time as we go through. So we would want to anticipate that and be able to budget to get those positions out there as they come open. As well as that printing technology. That's going to include workstations and the actual iPads for the ambulances. And then training, that would be our annual training budget there at $75,000. Medical, that's those annual physicals. Operating supplies is just going to cover all that stuff that it takes to operate that's not already included in another line item. And then vehicle supplies, we're talking about fluids, disinfectant. As you can imagine, when you're dealing with ambulances and medical calls, there's a lot of disinfecting happening. So that would cover that stuff. And then an annual amount of $25,000 for uniforms and about $60,000 for fuel. So here's those totals just on one slide for each year. The first year with all that initial capital is going to be the most expensive. And then we would try to be around that $2,163,000 for an annual operating. And just to point out, we will be billing for services as we go through this, just like the ambulances. So our goal is always going to be to eventually get it to where it can sustain itself. Yes, probably in the first couple of years, it's going to be a little tough as we start to get this going and get stuff in place. But we would hope to get to where this sustains itself eventually, and that's what we build our operating budget off of. So what does that plan look like? Hoping after your approval, we would really like to get that division chief position opened up. We've kind of hit the limit of our abilities right now, so we need somebody that's a little more knowledgeable in that area to kind of start navigating through that process. So as soon as possible, we'd really like to get that position opened up once we get approval. In July, we're going to start the licensing process. Once we do have a purchase agreement in place, we can take it to the state. They'll start the issuance of a license for us. And then essentially when the ambulance service ceases, we would move in and our license would become active. And then to also bill, we also have to have the national provider identifier. That's a process to get it. We've heard up to 6 to 7 months to get that identifier. So that would need to be started immediately too. So we can, once we do transition, we can go straight into being able to bill. We're looking in January where we start recruitment. We want to do a pretty hard push. A national push. Our goal is to get as many of the existing paramedics here in Dickinson that want to come over to the fire department to come over. But if we're unable to, we definitely want to get out there and make a national push and get some paramedics over here. In the June 2025, that's when we're hoping to bring all those positions on so we can start going through academies, getting people trained on our protocols once they're developed and kind of how we do stuff in the city. And that's going to be quite the process. So that'd be about a June start frame. And then we're hoping to go live January 1 of 2026. And then with that, I would stand for any questions.
Commissioners, thank you, Chief Presnell. Commissioners, any questions? I've sat through this already. We had a joint meeting last week with the county. A lot of individuals there. You know, Commissioner Soboluk was there. Commissioner-elect Riddle was there. I think they asked plenty of questions. Biggest one was the funding. And I know you had that one slide up there. I don't know if you want to push that back or.
The one with the amounts?
Yeah, the
That was the next slide, so
Oh.
if you want me to go to it before that, I can show you, but.
Okay. Any questions for the commissioners that weren't able to attend?
Yeah, so we're gonna run with the current ambulances they have until these new ones get here? Because you only are buying two, from what I'm reading here, right?
So there is still some life in those ambulances. So the goal would be, because this is a partnership with the county, a 50-50 partnership. The goal would be any of the existing equipment, yes, some of that stuff with the higher mileage may not be the best option for us, as many calls as we're running in Dickinson, but some of these smaller ambulance services in the county to possibly kind of transition them over to them. But those two ambulances at the top of that list, there's still some life in them. So we would run those until it would be time to replace. The two would just kind of get us two fresh ambulances.
I guess,
I
what
think
kind of
there's
lifespan do you get out of them? I mean, you're saying they put about 50,000 miles a year on, they already got 52,000.
Yeah, it's
In
gonna
2
be
years,
about-
that's 152,000.
Yes, sir. That's going to probably be right there. Probably going to be about a 3 to 4 year replacement rotation that we'll want to get into. And that's something we'll try to build into that once we do get that division chief on board. They do have a lot less lifespan than a fire truck.
Yeah, I figured that.
But the option would always be for a remount as well. If the box is still in great shape, then all we have to do is replace
Get
that
the
chassis.
chassis.
And that's a significantly less amount than what it would be for a brand new ambulance.
Gotcha, okay.
And a lot of that cost too is the equipment that goes inside that box. I mean, you just look at the defibs that we're buying. I think it was 4 or 5 defibs.
Yeah, it's very expensive.
It's almost $100,000.
Yeah.
You know, and all the additional items also that are involved with this.
I mean, I wasn't able to attend. I mean, are any of these gonna be four-wheel drive or, I mean,
So that's the other problem, is the current ambulances are what they call a type 2 ambulance. They're essentially like the van style front. They are transitioning to the pickup style, like the F3 450, and that's what we'd be looking at with those two new ambulances. They're a little more well suited for our climate and weather conditions. So that's the direction we'd be going, but those type 2s would still be good for those transfers.
Gotcha.
So we would try to get the two brand new ones and try to keep the two newest ones on that list. Internally, one of them, would kind of be during like this time of year we can send down the road because they do get better mileage than an F450 or F550. But so there's still a lot of very specifics that we do have to work out when that division chief gets on. But that's kind of some of the stuff that we have come up with.
Mr. President.
Commissioner Bear.
Chief and I, we met yesterday, went over the presentation. I actually have a question for Ms. Wanko. Regarding the billing, one of the questions I brought up was, back east, we had like ambulance associations where the citizens could pay into like a monthly fee, and if they paid into it, then regardless of how many times they needed ambulance services, they would get it. It was like almost like an insurance policy. But I was wondering if that was something that we could do with this project as a way to bring in some additional money to help with the cost. And I was asked to defer to you.
Was it Chief that told you that?
Yep, you did.
I actually, my words were, I think I need to check with Christine.
Well, Commissioner Bear, to answer your question, I'm not familiar with that type of association. I think obviously anytime that we do something like this, we always have to be mindful of what we can and cannot do as a public agency. And this is a unique situation where it would be operating for essentially for profit. So I would have to do a little bit of research on that because I am just not familiar with that type of organization and if it would work. It sounds, in principle, potentially, but again, I don't want to do anything that complicates things for the city as far as trying to collect on billables or things of that nature. So we'd have to do a little bit of research on that, and I can get back to you. But I'd hate to say and make a guess without doing a little bit more research on that one.
Okay.
Any other questions? I guess if you have, okay.
So with that, because this is a 50-50 split between the cities, so our initial request, I guess, that we're asking for tonight is $1.2 million to get going, so we can kind of start getting some of this stuff ordered. And the plan is to go to the county on their July 2nd meeting, I believe it is, and do the same. So that my request tonight is for $1.2 million to help kind of get us going, to get the stuff we need to start coming because of some of the delays, get that position hired. And the fire department staff highly recommends this, and I know the group that worked on this would also recommend it.
And just one caveat, as you saw, our district will go into Dunn County, so eventually we will be asking probably Dunn County to help support at least a portion of it.
Yes.
Contribute. To cover those, about 300, 350 individuals.
Yeah, approximately.
So. You have any further slides, Chief Presnell?
I do. I'm just not sure if I have to separate them out or if we can do it all as one, Christina.
Are you just asking for specific amounts?
Money, then pay scale approval, and then position description.
Yeah.
Presumably.
Why don't we just handle this first, their request, and then we'll go
Yes.
to the, or do you want to go to the job description and the wage scale?
I think presumably, probably likely going to see a yes vote on most, but I think it would probably easier just to do them one at a time, just in case there's particular questions.
Okay. So right now, on the table, Commissioners, is a request for $1.2 million. This is an initial startup of 2.4. I know where the money is going to come from, and Mrs. Carlson, we have the ARPA money
Yes, staff is recommending
that we
using
need
the
to spend.
ARPA.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Bear,
Second.
second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries.
So the next request, and what you see on here is our proposed pay scale. It starts out exactly what I had on my previous slides for those positions. The only thing you didn't see previously is we do have a senior paramedic position. It's going to be set up just like the senior system is right now in the city, more specifically in the fire department. So it is going to take essentially 3 years with the city before you would be eligible, but we're just trying to get this built in. This would just be attached underneath the fire pay scale, and staff does recommend approval.
Thank you, Chief Presnell.
Mr. President, I move to approve the pay scale.
We have a motion to approve the pay scale by Commissioner Frederick,
Second?
second by Commissioner Sobeluk. Any further questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Chief, you have a job description?
I do have a brief position summary for that division chief of EMS. So this position is essentially going to manage the EMS division for the fire department. It is a chief level position. It is exempt. We are looking for somebody with an associate's degree minimum. Bachelor is preferred. And then we are looking for somebody with 5 years or more of progressively responsible, in a progressively responsible positions. And then, obviously, they do need to have that paramedic license. I will tell you that a lot of these positions seem like that wage is really high. To be competitive, especially in our area, and, you know, going back up to Williston, and we communicated with them a lot, and that's the number they gave us for those paramedics was $69,000. We will not get a paramedic here for less than that. So we do have to be competitive in that market, and there is a shortage of paramedics in the state. So it is going to take a little bit to get there, but this position too is going to manage the entire division, and staff does recommend approval.
Thank you, Chief. Just for the public's knowledge, we will be the only, or the second city-run EMS service in the state. There's only one other one. Every other ambulance service in the state is private. Williston is the only other city-run emergency, service. So when the reference, keeps coming up, our coordination with Williston, we are taking their experience and how they run theirs and trying to mesh it so that we can make the transition a whole lot smoother. Like I said, every other service in the state is basically private. So, and Dickinson was private until this happened. So, any questions on the job description for the division chief of EMS? Not, I'd look for a motion. We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Soboluk,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bear. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mrs. Soboluk?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Chief. All right, right on time, 5:01. We'll move into the public hearings and public comment section at 5 p.m. First item up this evening, we have a public hearing for a rezone request of the Woods Acre subdivision. And this will be presented by City County Planner Josephson.
Thank you, President Decker. Commissioner Steve Josephson. This is a request for a rezoning of approximately 20-acre property from agriculture to rural residential. This was heard at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and both staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval. This is a case of someone who wants to create a subdivision. It's outside of city limits. It's in the extraterritorial zone, but it's outside of the city's urban service area. Originally, the applicant came in and just wanted to plat this as agriculturally zoned lots. The concern is with agriculture zoning is that it would continue to have some uses next to city limits that are really not compatible with the type of development in that area. So therefore, they requested to rezone to rural residential. A public hearing was also held on the preliminary plat for the Woods Acre subdivision preliminary plat. The final approval of the preliminary plat is going to be contingent upon approval of this rezoning. As I stated before, both the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Josephson. Any questions on the rezoning request for the Wood Acre subdivision?
I do have one. Where is this located? I didn't see a map in here.
Do we not have them? Oh. Okay. So do you want to try and describe that, Josh?
Yeah, so this is located 21st Street West,
Okay.
and then on the north side of 21st Street, just outside of city limits.
Let me find, there should
So,
be a map with the staff.
Like over like by Sundance Coves over that way?
Oh, no, it's the other
West,
direction.
east, that's east, okay.
This,
So like northwest of the middle school?
Yeah, this is kind of around where Pinecrest.
Okay,
Where,
yep.
where the part of the Pinecrest development that was excluded a few years ago.
Straight west of the middle school on 21st.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions on the rezone request? This is ordinance 1799. There are no further questions from commissioners. I'll open the public hearing. If anyone from the public wishes to come forward, has any concerns or questions on this rezone request, please come forward, state your name, and let the City Commission know your concerns about the rezoning request. Anyone from the public wish to comment on the rezoning request for the Wood Acres subdivision? If you're watching online, 701-456-7006. You may call in if you have any concerns. Anyone with any concerns on this rezone request? Seeing no one from the public has any comments or questions on the rezoning request, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, are there any further questions? Not, I'd look for a motion on ordinance 1799, the rezoning request for Wood Acres subdivision.
I'd move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Soboluk,
Second.
second by Commissioner Frederick. Are there any further comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mrs. Soboluk?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Our next item up, we have our annual Elder Care Dickinson Public Transit presentation. And we'd like to welcome Colleen Rodakowski. Welcome.
Do I have two? Doesn't matter. This is a tall one. Okay, great. Well, good to see everybody again. I enjoy coming every year to give you an update on elder care and Dickinson Public Transit. Every time I come, I think, why don't I come more often? Because it's always so interesting to hear everything. With me here today is Rose Drake. Rose Drake, if you want to stand, she's our operations manager. She oversees the meals and the transit. And then I have Tammy Krebs is our accounting supervisor. She works in our accounting department. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much to the city of Dickinson for your support. We could not, just a second here. We can't do public transit or elder care meals without the subsidy and the support of the city. We just can't. As you guys know, we're in the building that the city owns. You guys help us with utilities. You give us a transit subsidy. You give some sales tax dollars to help the meals and transit, and very much needed. When we talk a little bit about public transit's mission, you know, we are here to meet the needs of the transit needs of the Dickinson and surrounding areas. We provide transit services to the general public. We're the only agency that I'm aware of that we have wheelchair lift capabilities to help people who are disabled with getting to and from. And we're very safe, and we improve the quality of life of the people we serve. Many people do not have vehicles, and that's why they're riding with us. And they appreciate the drivers and our dispatchers and for us providing that service. It allows many people the opportunity for employment, being self-sufficient, which otherwise they would not be able to have. The next slide are the successes. We have 6 areas of successes. Increased ridership, actually meals as well. Fully staffed with a great team. We ordered 4 new buses last fall. 2 just arrived last week, 2 more tomorrow. Long wait for those vehicles during COVID pandemic. We're excited to bring those 4 buses to the community. I believe 2 rows will be in the parade. We're going to feature 2 of them in the parade. And these 4 buses are named with the North Dakota elm, meadowlark. What other 2? Pike and the squirrel. So they're off of our North Dakota themes. New transit software is coming. We've been working on this for a long time. Received a grant from the state, about $175,000. We've been actively searching new software to provide better service in the community. We are very close to making that award possible, and that software will be unrolled this summer. It's going to help us provide better ways for our riders to put a ride in by themselves, see where the bus is at. So it's going to be higher technology, more efficiency in the engine. That's going to run how rides are scheduled. Very, very excited about bringing that to the community of Dickinson. This past year, we won the Best of the Western Edge for the cab company 6 years in a row. And then we continue to market social media to meet the needs of the younger general public in the community. These are our top 5 rides that connect us to the community. Number 1 is work. Number 2, medical is there, but shopping, just jump that right over it, because shopping supersedes medical, and it has for several years now. I think that tells a lot about our community. Some of the things I say are the same every year, but I've been the director for 16 years. Work was not even on the agenda 16 years ago. It was mostly medical. And I really like to show, of course, social and recreation's on their education. And if you go to the next file, I'd like to show you the fourth one down is public buildings. We're tracking and taking people to and from public buildings here in the town. And I think that tells you a lot about where people are going. You know, not just work, but also medical, shopping, and public building. And notice the biggest thing to notice here is the almost 20,000 trips last year are work-related. And that's 20,000 trips out of right there at the bottom, you see about almost 50,000 one-way trips we did last year. I want to tell you that that's the highest number since 2019 pre-COVID. Back in 2019, we were constantly going over our highest. Before COVID hit, we were really on a big boom, and in the past 4 years, we were able to rebuild that back up. So it's amazing, and you can see the work related in that deep burgundy. That's phenomenal for getting people to and from work here in town. The next slide I have is trip classifications, and that first one are the general public. We do not keep track or have any means testing. We're open to the general public, so we don't ask for age and information like that, but we do know the elderly on the second bar graph that we're taking, as well as wheelchair. Wheelchair rides last year were over 5,000. And then kidney dialysis, about 882 kidney dialysis. The last slide bar is pretty small, but you can see it in your packet that you received. We had 312 trips to Bismarck. We go to Bismarck once a week on Tuesdays. We take people to and from, mostly medical. We have one-way trips, cost about $4. They cost $4 in town for a one-way trip. And we're open every day of the year, from Monday through Saturday, 6 in the morning to 6 p.m. Sundays we're open from 9 o'clock until 6 p.m. We do have early closings just on holidays, and that's at 3 o'clock because it's nice to have our staff be able to go home and have a meal with their family as well. So we're here to service the community every day of the year for Dickinson. Critical needs to sustain public transit, increase funding. I have to tell you, we're struggling with money. We're not the only ones. First time in my career, I'm writing grants and making applications for gaming. We need the money for both transit and meals. Yeah, I appreciate the increase you guys gave us last year in some of our funding. I might be coming back again. I mean, it is a struggle. Buses used to cost us about $65,000. The buses we just bought are $120,000. It's just phenomenal, but everybody's living it, so it's nothing new. I am finding with the fundraising and the time it's taken to do that a lot of the places you're going to for grants and funding, they're just getting so many requests that it is, I think, a struggle for many organizations. You guys probably hear that already. It's not new from what I'm telling you. Continued relationships and major partners. We have to partner to be successful. Our partnership with you, with the community, DOT, of course, is our state funding source, as well as the Department of Human Services and the county meal that we receive across the 8 counties. The meal program, I'll talk about that shortly, but that's in all 8 counties. We offer meals for seniors in Southwest North Dakota. We capture the grant for the Badlands area, whereas Dickinson Transit is in Dickinson mostly, but we will go to other surrounding towns if able, if there's a vehicle and a driver. Adapting to new market needs is something that is always important to us, and you're going to see that with that new software. That software has been needed for a while, and it's going to help us to adapt to the new markets. This is the agency income for 2023 for both meals and transit. About 2.7 million came in. The brunt of ours is in that burgundy section, the 44%. That's our agency income, which is from the funding sources we talked about from DOT and the Department of Human Services. Local match dollars is the next largest. That's where you see your funding from the city. The city of Dickinson sales tax funding, the $75,000 for transit, $75,000 for meals, and then the $55,000 for the transit the subsidy that we receive. Those are in the local match, along with contracts we receive, Medicaid, city county mill are in that category. The next slide, I have the expenses. We have about 2.6 for a total net income of $75,000. I do want to tell you that you see a $75,000 net income, but last year is the last year that we received COVID funding. You guys know all the COVID dollars that came in from the pandemic. Last year, all of that ran out. We received COVID funding for transit as well as the meals. This year, we are operating with a negative budget, actually, I think about $175,000 to $200,000. We had to operate at a negative. We couldn't, even with some of the fundraising, I didn't want to plug in $200,000 worth of fundraising. We thought it'd be best to run it in the negative so that we can monitor expenses, look at our budget. We're actually putting our budget together right now. We've been for a couple weeks. We're doing our budget earlier because we really need to look at dollars carefully in order to keep funding and operating both the meals and the transit. Here's our challenges of public transit: increased costs. I mean, a lot of these are the same from last year. Funding, of course, hiring staff. We've got a fabulous team, but it still is a challenge to retain and hire staff. And traffic congestion, deteriorating roads, but I also tell people that start complaining about the construction on the highway, hey, aren't we glad that they're fixing the roads, that it's slowing us down on the highways and our roads in town when we have to take different routes. We're so grateful that the city takes care of the roads and the state is working on our highways. So, but it's always a challenge with transit. Next, I'd like to tell you about the awards. Every year we have the Dakota Transit Association Conference. It's North Dakota and South Dakota together. We meet in the fall and we talk and share and learn and educate. Last year, Don Havelka, who is our lead driver, was the recipient of the Going Above and Beyond Award for the state of North Dakota. Big success for Don. He's a great asset to our team. Ray Adam, one of our drivers, first time he competed in the rodeo, which is a competition on safety, security, tying down wheelchairs. He placed 4th in the state, so we're really happy for Ray. And the last picture is Rose Drake. I introduced you to her earlier, our operations manager. Rose was recognized as the North Dakota Outstanding Support Staff of the Year. I'm going to give a kudos here right now to our team, not only just transit, but our meals. They're phenomenal people. They care so deeply about seniors in the community. We work so hard to provide competitive salary packages and benefits that all costs a lot, but I'm always looking to give back and to maintain that staff. It has been a struggle over the years for hiring, but we're really creative and we do our best. But I can't do our job without, of course, those partnerships, which include you guys and the state, as well as our wonderful team that we have. And then, of course, the community. We appreciate them using us. These are our goals for coming up. Always number one. Anybody in my office better not get that wrong. They won't. Our number one mission and concern is always safety. Safety of the vehicle, driver, passenger. And number two is exceeding customer service. Secure financial security and stability, always working on that. Really excited about the 4 new buses that we have right now. Shuttle service, we're working on that right now for Rough Rider Days. We're lucky, Lori Vernon, if anybody knows her, she works for us. She's very great volunteer for the community for Rough Rider Days, and she's working right now with Rose, and we're putting shuttles together for the concert. And they're doing it. They just gave me an update today. I'm pretty excited. Last year we had 1 shuttle from the mall. We've got like 5 locations we're working with to take people down to the concert and back up into town. Social media, continuing to update, and again, the staffing. Landscape and update sign. I do need to call and talk a little bit. The city knows, I think Aaron Proust, I saw you in the back. I'm working with Aaron on some landscaping dollars that the city has helped contribute to fixing the boulevard at Public Transit Building. We're going to get that project done. And then we're going to update the sign. 2017, we changed our name from Public Transit to Dickinson Public Transit. I'm probably going to call upon Aaron and the city a little bit for some help with that too. I wrote a grant with the state to update that sign so Dickinson's on it. It's actually engraved on a rock because we didn't have money back in 2012. So I was creative, and you guys had a lot of construction going on. I was able to get one of your big rocks, and we embedded public transit, but there's no room for Dickinson. We really need to get that name updated, so possibly maybe we can work together on that. Here's our fleet. Lot of mileage. As you can see, our highest vehicle has 239, down to 19,000. We received some vans last year. You see the last 2022, we did switch over the vans. There's 13 vehicles here. We got 4 more coming for 17. Some of those are going to be, we'll be selling back out. You know, we don't need the entire fleet, but they've met their useful life. But know that we take care of our fleet. We have a wash bay, and we really do our best to represent our community well. I always like to throw in some items about elder care. I know our contract is that I report on public transit, but I think it's good to talk to you about elder care because of the subsidy you give us through the sales tax. We increased meals by 80,000 last year. We offer meals in 22 meal sites across Southwest North Dakota. We operate under the Older American Act, which is a federal act through the state of North Dakota Department of Human Servicing. We don't charge for the meals because of the regulations, but we ask for a $5 donation. I want you to know that that is coming down every year. Last year we averaged $1.78 for each meal, and where we ask for the $5 contribution, people just don't have the money to give. I do also believe that the people that do have money to give are holding their money. People are so concerned about inflation and the cost of living. The next slide, so right here, we provide 82,794,000 meals in 2023, increase by over 9,000 from 2022. And guess when we've seen numbers this high? 15 years ago. Back in 1998 to 2008, we saw numbers of this caliber. That really tells you a picture that people need a nutritional meal. Our meals are not just protein and a vegetable and a fruit. They meet the 33 1/3 dietary reference intakes for a senior meal. They're healthy, they're nutritious. This past year, the state of North Dakota just subcontracted out some dollars with a contract, and we have all new menus, new meals and stuff to provide to meet those needs. They're really good meals. Do know that we have to subsidize the meals. I wish I could do this. I'm going to throw this out. I put in a grant to add on to the public transit building for just the architect fees. I don't know if I got it yet, but I'm pretty confident we're going to get it. So if I get that contractor fees, we're going to look at expanding it because public transit is growing. We need to expand that building. I don't have it yet. The city administrator, Dustin Dossinger, we talked about it when I was writing in. I apologize, I haven't met with you yet, but we will talk about that. I will ask for the money for that building this December for the following year, and possibly, of course, we'll partner, and my hope is maybe you guys can help us with some of the match dollars for that. I wish I could put a kitchen in there, a commercial kitchen, and do elder care meals and get a home cook in there, but I've been told I can't can't mix the elder care meals in that building because it's a federal FTA building. And all those rules and regulations, I wish I could jump some hoops. If I could, I would. I'm still probably going to try. I really think it's to the benefit of Dickinson if we had a commercial kitchen. We are paying elder care massive dollars in subcontracting with Dickinson State, Sodexo. The Perch Restaurant does our meals in town. We use Mom's Meals, which is a refrigerator meal we subsidize with. We're working with some nursing homes. The nursing home in Mott is cooking our meals. Hilltop Home in Kildare just started. I believe we could do a cheaper meal with a home-cooked meal out of a kitchen, but we need a commercial kitchen. So I'm just throwing this out to the public and to all of you here today in the commission. If anybody has an idea, I really think that we need to have a commercial kitchen that we can operate out of. And I thought if it was up there, when you have troubles with staffing, we could help subsidize the kitchen with our office staff. You know, I could go in and do some cooking, or we could work together. I really think that that's something that needs to be looked at, because the cost of the meal is about $14.50. And that includes not just the meal costs, you guys, but the administration of the program with the state. Okay, challenges, increasing those meals. They're out there. Running out of state reimbursements. I'm going to be out about $80,000 this month, because we captured all the money in our contract already, but people keep needing meals, so we do keep servicing them. Rising food costs, inflation, of course, always wages. Participants, I already mentioned, it's hard for them to donate. And the net losses that we've had in prior years, not in 23. And maintaining and hiring the qualified staff. And then our goals are similar to transit, financial security. I'd like to create a takeout meal for seniors, because it's hard to hire. We're finding seniors are coming out of retirement and working again. You see them when you come into Walmart and places you go and eat. A lot of seniors are coming back out to work, and they could use that takeout meal because they're working all day. And opening up more Cafe 60 sites. We do operate through Cafe 60, which is a restaurant program. We created that a few years back, where a senior can eat in a restaurant. Restaurants struggle with it because of the requirements that they have to serve a special fruit with a certain vegetable, with a certain protein. But our most successful cafe is Buzzy's Cafe in Buzzy's Beach. Yes, Beach. So they're doing really well there. Big thank you to all of you, to the City of Dickinson again for your support, North Dakota DOT, Human Services, Adult and Aging. The Management Board, we got a fabulous Management Board that oversees elder care and Dickinson Public Transit, our team and staff at work, and again, the community. We're so grateful to be providing these services to the City of Dickinson and the partnership we have created. So any questions or comments that you have for me?
Well, thank you, Mrs. Rodakowski, and your staff for all you do. Any questions, commissioners? Continue the good work.
All right, thank you. And like I said, you might see me again before my next report, as there might be some areas where I'm going to need some assistance with maybe some extra funding if you have it. I'm telling that to all the county mill levies as well, because we are struggling with getting that budget to get to zero or a little bit above. So thanks again.
Mrs. Rodakowski, we start the budget discussions for next year in July already, so you probably want to contact Mr. Dossinger and Mrs. Carlson as soon as possible.
Okay, I'd like to, we'll do that. I'll get a meeting scheduled. Thanks.
Thank you.
You bet.
Our next presentation this evening will be the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority presentation. Just a little heads up, why Big Sky here. We had a discussion last meeting about joining a coalition to support bringing Amtrak back through Dickinson, and it was brought to my attention shortly afterwards that the organization was not as local as they presented themselves to be. And so we have asked the Big Sky Passenger Rail and Terry Thiel to come in and explain Big Sky Passenger Rail, and then we'll have a discussion about possibly reconsidering and joining, which we know is way more local than the past one.
Terry?
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to come tonight. My name is Terry Thiel. I'm the Executive Director of the Dickinson Convention and Visitors Bureau. So back in, I believe it was April of 2021, I had been contacted by the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority of their project that they were undertaking to do a reinstatement for the former North Coast Hiawatha rail line that had been discontinued probably in about 1976. So I took a look at the project, and they were asking others across the state in that. And at that time, in its infancy for what was brought to us and what they were working on, was basically looking at the support that was needed on the federal level to get our senators, representatives on the national level to do support with that, and then start the process, which is quite a long process, to become part of this movement with it. So what I'm going to do is I've got Dan Bucks that will be doing a PowerPoint presentation, kind of giving an overview, but first I'm going to do a short 30-second PSA video about the rail line. So. Hang on, one more, I believe.
We are embracing passenger rail as a way to bring this state, this region, and this nation back together again.
Okay. So let me go on now, and I'll let Dan, are you able to take over? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
If someone there needs to help me with the presentation coming up, if I, in a minute.
Yeah. Okay, so your PowerPoint is up.
Okay. Thank you. And I'll have to figure out how to, I'll probably have to ask that it be moved forward for me, because I don't see the controls for me to do it from here. But President Decker and members of the Dickinson City Commission, thank you very much for this opportunity to talk with you about the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority and the effort to restore passenger rail in this region of the country, an effort that is increasingly successful. I'm the volunteer chair of the Development and Strategic Engagement Committee. Again, my name is Dan Bucks, B-U-C-K-S. I'm retired. I had nearly 43 years in public administration at the state government level in South Dakota, Montana, and nationally. I live in Missoula, Montana, where I'm speaking to you from right now. And it's a pleasure to have this opportunity to talk with you. And before I get into any details at all, I want to say that North Dakota has, at the state level, has been a very important part of this effort over the last few years. Governor Burgum, Senator Kramer, and Senator Hovind have all been in leadership roles at critical points in supporting, and have played leadership roles in supporting this entire passenger rail restoration effort. And their support has been very critical to our progress and our success. And I want you to know that from the outset, and we've appreciated that greatly. And now there's an opportunity to bring this participation and support down to the local level in North Dakota through the Municipal Governmental Partner Program that I'm going to talk with you about for the next few minutes. And Mr. President, I've got a presentation in two parts. First of all, about the authority and the rail route and the general economic and social benefits of passenger rail for this region. And then I have listed in the PowerPoint a question and answer period that we could have at that point before I go on and talk about the invitation to the Municipal Governmental Partner Program and further questions, or I can go straight through, President Decker, at your discretion. But I can pause partway through for questions if that's appropriate, and you're welcome to interrupt me as well if something is not clear. Um, let's go to the next slide. If someone there can move it for me.
It's up. It's on there now.
Okay. The my purpose here is to update the Dickinson City Commission on the major progress we've made in renewing passenger rail service on the former North Coast Hiawatha route that runs 2,300 miles from Chicago to Seattle and Portland. I'm going to review the potential benefits of passenger rail for local communities, and I'm going to invite your participation in our Big Sky Passenger Rail Municipal Governmental Partner Program to help communities working together to maximize the benefits of passenger rail for your citizens. Now, the benefits of passenger rail service depend on two things. First of all, the nature, frequency, and reliability of the passenger service itself. And number two, the actions that local communities take to make the best use of that service and maximize its benefits for their citizens. That second part is like anything else in life. The more you put into it, the more you get out of it. And that's what we're talking about with our Municipal Partners Program, is an opportunity for communities to be able to get more out of the passenger rail service. Moving on then to the next slide about the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority, if we could move on to that. The authority was built up from the local level to a regional level within the state of Montana, beginning in November of 2020. The authority is only 3.5 years old, and it started with 12 counties if we could move back again, I think we're getting ahead. Yeah, we started with, we were created by 12 counties in late 2020, November 2020 to be sure. And now there are 19 counties across the southern part of the state that are full members of the authority. We have 3 tribal nations that are ex officio members of our authority. Those, again, if we could stay on that slide. Oh no, yes, the 3 tribes that are part of this are the Confederated Salish and Kootenai in the west, the Crow in the south central area, and the Northern Cheyenne just to the east of the Crow tribe. Besides the tribes, the Burlington Northern Santa Fe and Amtrak are both working with us on this effort as ex officio members, and they make positive and constructive efforts with us, and as well as the Montana Department of Transportation. Now, we're authorized by law to cooperate with public and private entities to expand rail service wherever that rail service runs, both inside the state of Montana and connecting outside. That's why we are the sponsors of this 2,300-mile route. Let's go on to the next slide then, if we could. We had early success with securing language in the bipartisan infrastructure law for a study of expanding long-distance passenger rail across the nation. And that's in long-distance passenger rail, and this is an important technical point, is our rail lines that are longer than 750 miles. That's a long-distance route. And those routes are entirely a federal responsibility in terms of payment for the operating service. No county or state government pays for the operation of the long distance routes, which are, again, over 750 miles. We proposed language in the bipartisan infrastructure law for a study of long distance routes, and that study is now underway and is actually coming to a close. Excuse me. Is there a question? But our second, that was, and when we were successful at that, but our second and largest success came on December 8th of just this last year, when our long distance route was picked as one of 69 routes for planning and design under the Corridor ID program. And that program will provide us through 3 steps: the ability to plan and design the restoration of the former North Coast Hiawatha service in up to the point of it's being essentially a shovel-ready project. So we are now not just an advocacy organization, but a group that is in the planning and development phase of this particular route. This program, and there were 69 routes that were selected for support, and they are all shown on this particular map. But ours is the only new long-distance route in the entire country that was selected for the Corridor ID program. Now, out of that long-distance study, there are 14 more long-distance routes being proposed, but they will all be competing for prioritization. We will not be competing for prioritization because we have already been selected for the funding and development program that leads to the implementation of the route. We are first in line for restoration of service in the country. There are 200 long-distance lines that are existing lines where they're improving the frequency, but we are, of all the 69 routes, we are the only brand new long-distance route selected in the country. And it has been since the late 1940s that anyone in this country has planned and developed a new long-distance passenger rail route in this country. That is a huge achievement. It is a big deal, and we're really proud of it, and we're moving forward with this effort. Now, I've got a better picture of this 2,300-mile route because it shows the detail for along the way. We can move to the next slide of a route here. And in that next slide, it shows some of the station locations historically that existed, and Dickinson is prominently on that as one of the historic stations. Now, there are some variations on the route. If we can bring up this, is the next. There are some variations, alternatives along the way in the route in the Midwest, further in the Midwest in the Wisconsin area, out west in Washington, a few variations possible in Montana, but there are no variations for the route in North Dakota. It is a straight line across the southern part of your state on the Burlington Northern Santa Fe line, with Dickinson listed as one of the historic stations, and you're very much in line for having a renewed station depending on your own choices that you make there. I think it's no one has made the final decisions on the stations. They will be done in our service development planning, but Dickinson has I think a very strong claim for a station, and I think everyone expects, because of the role that you play in Western North Dakota and your previous history and the size of your community, that's not very much of a question. So that's where the route is. Those are some of the potential locations. If we could move on to the economic impact of passenger rail. There's data on the Empire Builder that's done regularly, updated by the federal government regularly, on cost benefits of passenger rail. The Empire Builder, of course, is a close comparison to this particular route, sharing some of the same lines at certain points and being in the same region of the country. It historically, before the pandemic, yielded a 10-to-1 return in terms of economic benefits as compared to the cost. During the pandemic, the return was lower, 6-to-1, but now it is recovering with increased ridership since the pandemic. The benefits are, interestingly enough, are proportionally greater for smaller communities than larger ones. And that's a very interesting phenomenon. Passenger rail is the equivalent of opening, the functional equivalent of opening an airport in small cities and towns that connects to a national network. Because you are getting placed on a national network when passenger rail comes through your city or town. And it is the functional equivalent of an airport in your town that connects nationally for passenger service. And that is why it has such a dramatic effect on smaller communities as compared to larger communities. And and other benefits, social and environmental benefits of passenger rail are also significant. Now, talking a little bit more about our plans for this route, we have certain goals, and if we can move on to the next slide. One of our goals is a new name for the route. The North Coast Hiawatha doesn't have any meaning that we find to people along the way, and so we are going to be undertaking a process yet later this year to seek a new name for the route and asking for broad participation from the public, the people across the region to come up with a new name. And we hope to make this service a model for what long distance service ought to be in the country. We believe that the route should operate on a twice daily basis in each direction. All the long distance routes now operate once daily in each direction. That means that some people only get trains at night and not in the daylight. That means that you cannot make a 150 or to 200 mile trip from a smaller community to a larger community for health care, for education, for social or cultural events. You cannot make a round trip in one single day. You have to have overnight lodging. We believe that the ridership will be maximized and increased beyond the incremental cost if we have twice daily service in each direction. We're aiming for on-time performance and true weather resiliency. Trains have an advantage over motor vehicle transportation in terms of weather resiliency, and we want to maximize that characteristic of the route. Continuous Wi-Fi connectivity for work and leisure, small parcel delivery service. Stations will be approximately 50 miles apart. That's the average. They will vary. But small parcel delivery, where small businesses can seek parts, farmers and ranchers can seek parts for their equipment, where they can deliver specialized products that fit in small parcels along the way. This is something that was ceased at the beginning of the pandemic. We'd like to see it revived, and it can be very effective in rural areas that don't have specialized freight connections. This is something a lot of people are excited about. And we're seeking advanced propulsion technology, such as green hydrogen, for the locomotives with new modern 21st century train sets. Those are some of our aspirations for the route as we proceed with the planning and design of it. If we could move on to the next slide here quickly. What the service means for communities is important. It will bring new transportation options, tourism, jobs and economic opportunities to communities along the route. It will build stronger and healthier communities and reach rural and tribal areas. It'll provide a working tool for businesses, farmers, ranchers, schools and universities, healthcare institutions, and other civic resources. I've talked about the revival of the small parcel delivery service. It can stimulate new housing and businesses near stations and transit points, and it will result in better freight rail capacity, safety, and performance. A lot of people ask, well, will passenger rail stop the freight rail? And the answer is that the opposite is true. That when you upgrade the line for passenger rail service, it increases the capacity for freight rail service. And that is why we have the host railroad, BNSF, cooperating with us, because they see that opportunity. And we have already cooperated on the Empire Builder line with Amtrak and BNSF and ourselves securing a $15 million grant to eliminate a bottleneck at the town of Malta, Montana, that delays freight and passenger rail traffic. And by some investments in infrastructure, we can untangle that choke point along the route to the benefit of both passenger rail and freight service. And that's an example of what passenger rail does. It triggers upgrades in freight rail service and reliability along with passenger rail service and reliability, and they work together. If we can move on then, our specific goals, everybody asks, when will the trains arrive? Well, our goal, now there are some folks who have at the federal level who think it's going to take longer. Well, we think we can do it faster and better if we do it, if we put our minds to it in terms of the planning process and the design process. Our goal for bringing this train service back is 2032 if we work together effectively. And the we I am talking about are the states, the federal government, and the local communities along the routes. The more that communities in particular, like yours, prepare for this passenger rail service, the earlier this service will operate, and the better it will operate if we work together and prepare to use the service effectively earlier rather than later. We need local governments to lead on renovating or building train stations, developing relevant services near stations and destinations, and creating connecting transit services within cities or towns and to outlying communities and destinations. And the more that local governments take the lead on those local facilities and services, the faster and earlier we will be able to develop this route, because the federal government will realize that we are ready to utilize this service. Now, Mr. President, President Decker, if I am pleased to stop here at this point if there are questions about the route before I go on and talk about the Municipal Partner Program, or I can just proceed forward if you want me to.
Are there any questions, Commissioners? You can proceed.
Okay. We will then move past the next slide. Previously, over the last 2 years, we grew our Municipal Partner Program, and from 0 to 18, we've had 2 more communities join recently, including Jamestown, North Dakota, as our first out-of-state community that has joined. Previously, Montana cities and towns supported our advocacy, our organization, and educational efforts, and those efforts will continue through the program because we need to continue to grow this movement and welcome more participation in planning the route. But what is different now this year is that we are welcoming cities, towns, metropolitan organizations, and counties outside Montana. Our first invitations have gone out to communities in North Dakota and northern Idaho. We will extend that across the rest of the region served by the route in coming months. And the other thing that is more important, instead of simply asking for some modest financial support for our educational, our organizational, and advocacy efforts, we in turn want to provide support for communities in developing the local community passenger rail facilities and services. And we want to create a forum to support cooperation and coordination among communities. Now, what we mean by support for communities in developing passenger rail facilities and services and forums to support cooperation and coordination among communities is that we are going to be holding quarterly webinars with local officials and their staffs, inviting local officials and staffs from the member communities, just from the member communities, to provide information on federal grant opportunities, for information on community development tools and methods to take advantage specifically of passenger rail, the needs that exist in terms of developing train stations and connecting services and development around stations, beneficial development around stations, the need to do that, and the means of bringing those kinds of developments about. And we will also we will provide information and technical assistance on those community development activities, and also by pulling the communities together, we will create a mechanism for cooperation, in particular where transit lines need to stretch from one community to other destinations, either because it's a tourist destination or because it is another community off the route that doesn't have a station. We will be trying to match communities together to create a community development zone, or help support them in creating a community development zone to support those transit connections. And I have a story to tell about why we want, when the trains run down the track, when that whistle first blows, we want transit connections at the station. Believe it or not, there are communities along the Empire Builder Line today where their transit systems do not stop at the train stations because nobody planned ahead for that. We don't want to be in that position. We want the transit systems to work with the train stations, and that needs to be done locally and with the kind of support that we will provide through this program. So we can go over the next slide. I think I've gone. As I said, we will hold regular webinars. We will try to tailor our assistance to suit the unique needs of various communities and answer your questions about how you can relate to this overall passenger rail project. And as I said, we're trying to support the development of a collaborative rail community. I think we jumped ahead a few slides. Let me go back here another, just a couple, one more back, please. The key purposes of the annual program, this is an annual program, is to maximize the benefits of passenger rail for the communities. We are in the new fiscal year. We will be providing services from July 1 of this year to June 30th of 2025. We're in the enrollment. Go ahead to the next slide, please. The enrollment period is up until October 31 to join for this year. And our partner contributions are tailored to community size and location. Now we can go on to that. Dickinson, as we understand it in the latest Census Bureau, is just under 25,000 in population. And on our scale, which was designed around communities sized in Montana, that would mean that our requested contribution, voluntary contribution for partnership would be $2,000 for Dickinson. Now, if 21 more people came into Dickinson, that might that theoretically could push you up into the next category. I think we're going to re-examine the categories there to have a smoother transition from the smaller numbers to the larger number, because that was designed around the community size in Montana, and we have communities that are either close to 15,000 or at just above 40,000, and few in between there, and those categories are a little arbitrary. But there was a question as to what we would be asking Dickinson for, and according to the current Census Bureau estimates, we will be asking you for a voluntary contribution of $2,000 into the program for this particular year. And we really invite you and welcome you to participate in this. President Decker, I apologize for taking perhaps a bit of time, but this is a huge project. This is an enormous undertaking. And we are proud of the fact that in 3.5 years, we have come from nowhere to having funding for the planning and design of this route. And we're excited about reaching out to all of the communities along the route who can benefit so much from this new form, this renewed form of transportation for your communities and other communities like you. And we would really hope you would join with us. And we will be responsive to your needs, because all of us along the route come from small communities in the national picture. None of us are large communities. And we all want this project to succeed, and the best way we can do that is by succeeding together. Thank you very much, Mr. President and members of the commission, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Bucks. Any questions? Now that the presentation. Mrs. Carlson, I have a question for you. The motion was by which commissioners?
I'll have, Mr. President, Commissioner Oderman made the last motion. So I think for the sake of just getting this done this evening, I would just recommend the commission make a separate motion, and then when we have a full commission, we can rescind the other one.
Rescind the other one?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Will there be an issue since I seconded it and I won't be at the next meeting?
You're racking my parliamentary brain here. Well, let me look into that. We'll figure out what we need to do, but for that purpose, let's just get this one voted on.
okay. Any concerns or questions, commissioners, with joining the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority? I think them being closer to us than the other organization is going to better serve our needs moving forward, especially with the working on the terminal, which we've been working on for years, trying to secure some kind of authority to improve that building. So I think that'd be a great asset to have back into the city like it once was.
Yep.
So I guess if there are no questions for city staff or Mr. Bucks,
I do have a question on this fee. Is this an annual fee or a one-time fee?
it's annual.
Annual, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
It's an annual.
Mr. President,
Commissioner Bear?
I make a motion that we go ahead and join with Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority
Okay.
and pay the 2,000 fee per year.
We have a motion by Commissioner Bear to join the authority.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Look forward to hearing from you, Mr. Bucks.
Thank you very much. We are excited about this, and I can guarantee you that the authority will be very pleased with this report, and we look forward to working with you very, very much, and you'll be hearing from us very soon. So thank you.
Yep, thank you. Mrs. Thiel, you have the CVB annual report now.
Yes, thank you. I want to make one more comment. It was interesting last week. We, of course, are getting a lot of visitors coming in right now, and I had Rhonda from Massachusetts I was out in the lobby, and she started talking to me. She said, you know, you guys really need to get a rail service through here. Out of the blue. I mean, she said, you know, there's one up north there, and she about 10 minutes went on about, you know, really should have one going through here. I said, it's interesting you say that. So anyway, it was kind of a coincidence with all that. So yeah, thanks for having me back up again. I know I'm a little late for this year for kind of doing a report. We've been busy at the office. We're now getting we have another staff member in that, so we're starting to get back into the swing of things, moving straight ahead with that. So yeah, so our annual report, put that together with that. And these are a few of the videos I wanted to show you guys from last year. That's one we had for some of our summer ads that we had did a placement on. And this is one we did just for the Enchanted Highway. That one, we had seen some footage that tourism had on theirs, and I contacted, it was a individual out of Canada had done this drone footage, so we just purchased that. We got all the different ones, and so we got the stock footage for that we own and put that together. Come on. This is our fall one. And this last one will be the one for hunting. Okay. We're stuck.
Froze it up.
Okay, froze up. It must have been too good. Anyway, that hunting one did really well out of a lot of those that we placed with that. So anyway, that was just a few of them. We have quite a few that we do, and now I'll hopefully get into our annual meeting. Oh, this one here is one I'll go over to. We did a co-op with Williston and McKenzie County on golfing western North Dakota. So we did a couple different things, but this was one that we did just for our Facebook ad that we put together. So that was like I said, our co-op one. And then I should be having our full report on there. Let's see. Nope. Okay, I'm going to go back a ways and see if I can pull that up. Okay. I don't think it's coming up. I think these are just the videos,
Doesn't
but
look like it's loaded.
what?
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's loaded.
It didn't load. Okay. Well, I'll be emailing it out, but I basically will go over a couple things that our lodging last year, the gross lodging, there it is.
Oh, it's on, you guys have it too on here.
Yeah.
Okay.
There it
Thumbs
is,
up?
Terry.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. So we do our intro every year, kind of some of the things that we do between the marketing and servicing visitors and such. By the numbers, we had 49 states last year. You know, we'll go from 49 to 50. Maryland was the only one we didn't have last year. We had 14 international countries. Canada was our #1 country for that one. 50th state visit, that has gotten to be extremely popular with people that we put on Facebook. So we say it's save the last for best, give them a certificate, some pins and that, and we go from 40 to 50 if people are coming in. Okay. I'm stuck again. Nope. Okay, until then, I'll just go over by the numbers. So the gross revenue last year for the 2% lodging tax, which is the 2 cents per dollar that's brought in that we receive, sent from the hotels collect it, send it up to the state. You guys turn around and then send it back over to us. And that was $21,902,350. So it's a very large impact with that lodging within our communities with that. So our occupancy rate last year was 51.7%, so that's been going up. The year before was like 48.5%. Average daily rate was $93.71, and last year at $86.50. So our lodging tax receipts that we used and had gotten were $438,047. And we have a lot of different other numbers going into, like our Facebook followers at 6,300. Website stats at web views at 202,000, 77,000 users. Our demographics are basically between, our largest is 35 to 44 years, and it's gotten a little bit younger lately. 52% female, 48% male. Go to our website, is be the events page. That is the most requested on there when we take a look at our analytics, then things to do. Rough Fridays Fair and Expo comes up quite high with that, then dining and hunting. Our top cities will be Dickinson, Minneapolis, Chicago, Denver, Bismarck, and top locations for website traffic, Dickinson, Minneapolis, Chicago, Denver. So different ways that we get them. Some can be organic, some is what we do for ad placements. When we do our ad placements, you know, we look at what we have created online, which includes some videos, some other static posts as far as photos and that, but we look at what we put out each month, starting out like May was at Roosevelt National Park, then June, the Badlands Dinosaur Museum, going back again to retarget the park, back again or the Badlands Dinosaur Museum and Enchanted Highway, and then we do the last two for the hunting for September and October. So, and then our market. So you'll see a couple of the different display ads that we've done with that, and then I'll leave the numbers on the bottom for those are the ones that we had done for what we created and placed in our office. But the next page, we also do some tourism division co-op programs. We've done that for quite a few years. Social media, Google keyword marketing. We do a lot of their co-op programs to give us a better use of our dollars that are going out, and along with the research for those audience with that on that leisure. And then you can see that we will get a current report that's going on through audit that they've used. And then some of the traditional media. Traditional, that'll be your ads that are put into the different magazines, the trail maps, rest area visitor program, our tear-off maps, things like that. So there are a few examples that are on there that you'll see. We also do a local food rack card that we update all the time. People like to have the individual cards to just kind of grab real quick, see what everything is local, you know, or they, you know, we have franchise we also list too, but they do like local. Guides to the cities that we put out every year, about 15,000 of those. They go into the visitor centers, go into bags and out the rest area, and the coffee cruise flyers that we create and then also put onto the website. We've worked with travel influencers, the tourism division program. Last year we had Expedition Christian, so she came out of Minnesota. We get deliverables on Facebook posts, story frames, Instagram reels, TikToks, things like that. And then that next page just kind of shows some of the places that she went over to the Assumption Abbey, Enchanted Highway, Fatfish Brewing, Ukrainian Institute, Fluffy Fields, Badlands Dinosaur Museum, and such like that. And at the bottom, then we have the numbers, so we know exactly what we're getting back with that, how many impressions, reaches, and engagements with that. That other page in there, talk about the golf ad that we did again. So we took out a full-page ad in North Dakota Living magazine, and this campaign ran from August 11th through September 8th. And we created a website just for this, is Golf Western North Dakota. And then there was the display ads that were put in. So we had display ads. That one is just a sample of it. Top placements were golfdigest.com, Grand Forks Herald, USA Today, Golf Week, USA, KFOR TV. And then the ad that we did down there had the stats on that for that video that you just saw. So that was real successful for the three of us with that. Hunting promotions, we've been real consistent with that for the years. Hosting on Wisconsin Outdoors, the writers come out here, tourism pays for their licenses. We've had good local support through the hotels to host them. We work with Forum Communications with online display ads and print ads. Tourism, hunting newsletter, welcome banners out at the fixed base operator airport out there. Some of our own ads that we've created, and then we distribute about 500 plots throughout the hotels out to the airport and such. But it isn't just leisure, so it's also meetings and conventions. So what I've listed here for these last year are just a few of them. Some are the larger ones, of course. And this week, we've had 3 of them that are quite large actually this week going on for June. So we've been very fortunate with that. So yeah, quite a variety with all the different services and things that we provide for them. The events, we always have things on our website. We find out more all the time, try to get those on as fast as we can, put them on the LED sign and such. And then we also administer the event grant program. So it's the $50,000 each year. That goes through a process through the board, through an application review, an evaluation after that. So you can see the ones that were awarded. The annual ones will be for media assistance. There's some that are rotating. Some we give assistance also to over to Rough Our Days Fair and Expo. So we also have now gone into some of that is awarded is then turned into Facebook ads that we do for them to get out that message into maybe a medium that they haven't really been using before or have had the capabilities to do the paid advertising on that. So we pledged $54,200 for last year for 2023. There was a congratulations to Tammy Meyer, who's at the Town Place Suites by Marriott. She is the breakfast champion. We nominated her at the travel conference last year, and she was awarded the Frontline Tourism Employee Award for the travel conference, including guest comments. Tammy is an ambassador that is just phenomenal for our entire community. Listing for some of the community outreach, Leadership Dickinson Museum Center that we attend, community relations meetings each month. I did a middle school presentation last year, Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. I'm the chair for the North Dakota Travel Alliance Partnership. We work with legislative issues in the travel industry. Arts Across the Prairie, I've been working with the placemaking project that they've got, and then the state tourism, state CVB Association, and then also did some support for the horses in the park. Last one is our board of directors on there, President Tom Fath, Vice President Elaine Myron, Secretary Treasurer Jim Bridger, Ryan Jillick is on the board, Susie Sobolik has been on the board, Kayla Berghard, ex officio Dustin Dossinger, and then staff. Right now I have Caitlin Clatterbuck, but we did have Julie Obergabrich and Joel Walters before, and thank them for all the time that they put in with us at our office. So that kind of summarized. I'll get that out if anybody else would like it, but we'll get those things out. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Director Thiel. Any questions?
Okay.
Keep up the good work.
All right.
Good job, Terry.
Thank you. All right.
I don't know who's got the controller, but there you go. All right, there we go. Okay, we'll move on to public comments not on the agenda. If you're in the audience and you have any comments that you wish to speak to the City Commission about, please come forward. If you're watching online, 701-456-7006.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Decker and Commissioners. My name's Peggy Erzman, and I'm here because of a subject that I'm very passionate about, something that I feel very strongly about, and that is the importance of supporting our local businesses and therefore supporting our local economy. Several years ago, I stood before this commission and asked for your support with a new campaign of Thank You for Shopping Locally, which the commission very graciously supported, and I was very thankful for that and continue to be thankful for that. But recently I was contacted by a local business owner who was very upset, and that owner shared with me they're upset about the baskets that are adorning Villard and Legacy Square, and that the purchase of these baskets took place outside of our city and county. We have locally owned greenhouse owners. These people pay taxes. They collect sales tax for the community. We also have regional and national greenhouses. They employ people locally and collect sales tax dollars as well. An inquiry was made of the local owners, one being Happy Camper Greenhouse and the other being Third Avenue Floral, to determine if they had been contacted by anyone representing the city or Legacy Square or the Downtown Association regarding the purchase of the baskets. And each of the owners stated that they had not been contacted. I'm not here seeking an explanation or an excuse. I just, even if the donation was made privately for the purchase of the baskets, it's really disappointing to me and to other business owners in the community that a decision was made to support an entity outside of Dickinson and not support our local economy. So that's all I have to say, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Erzman. Anyone else have any comments?
Good evening, members of City Commission. My name is Madison Rhodes. I'm lucky to call myself a lifelong resident of Dickinson. I grew up here, went to college here, and chose to move here after I spent a few years away in New York. There's something special about our little city, and I want to thank you for everything that you've done to make that magic happen. I am here today to address a concern of mine and show support for my friend, our former city planner, Matthew Galabert. I had the privilege of meeting Matthew last summer, and I was immediately impressed by his optimism and passion for his career in city planning. Here was someone who grew up in Texas, worked hard through college in Arizona, and then earned a master's degree in Norway, in the very city my ancestors came from. Every job offer he received across the US, he chose to come here and work for us. When I asked him why he wanted to build his life in Dickinson, I remember him giving a near 10-minute soliloquy about his love for our city. He spoke highly of everyone here at City Hall, and he was so happy he had already found friends and mentors here. He shared his excitement for the unique opportunities awaiting him, and he felt so hopeful for his future working with the city. My favorite days with Matt were spent walking around downtown, especially during events. I myself am a bit shy, but I loved listening to him talk with everyone, learning about their businesses and their lives. His genuine interest in getting to know the people here and finding ways he could support our community is still very inspiring to me. Matthew made me fall in love with Dickinson again. He showed me everything there is here to appreciate. He was truly an incredible asset to our community, and we were very lucky to have found such a qualified, intelligent, and vibrant city planner like him. As you are well aware, Matthew was the target of harassment and unfair treatment by City Administrator Dustin Dossinger and HR Manager Shelley Nominuk. I don't need to go into what happened on February 16th, or what has happened since, as those events have been detailed in the recent Dickinson Press articles and the investigative report you will be holding a special session about tomorrow. What I want to share is my perspective. I want to tell you how I watched my best friend lose his spark because of the actions of members of city leadership. I was with Matthew the morning of February 16th when he arrived home from the incident. I have never seen him so distraught and so confused. In the following weeks, I sat with him as he searched for answers in open records requests and body cam footage. I held his hand as he questioned his own actions, if he did or said something wrong that caused his supervisors to distrust him and make unfounded accusations. I watched my best friend lose sleep, lose his appetite, and lose sense of who he is, a kind, caring, loving person. Before the incident, my time with Matthew was spent exploring our city, laughing over coffee, talking about the future, and even helping him look for a house to purchase here. After the incident, my time was spent comforting Matthew through the hardest time of his life. Instead of looking forward to what the future had in store for him here, I helped him pack up his entire life and drove with him across the country. Because of this incident, I had to say goodbye to my best friend. Through everything, all Matthew has wanted is a simple apology. He wanted reassurance from city leadership that they would cease their accusations about his mental health. He wanted reassurance that he could continue his work as normal without fear of further harassment, but City Administrator Dustin Dossinger and HR Manager Shelley Nominuk still have not apologized. The treatment Matthew has faced is unacceptable and should not be tolerated in any workplace. I don't blame him for resigning his position, but I blame Dustin and Shelley for being the reason he felt forced to do so. Their actions have not only negatively affected Matthew personally, but have affected his friends and his family, and have resulted in a financial burden on taxpayers, and have been a source of embarrassment for our city. I want to thank you, commissioners, for taking this matter seriously and deeply considering the consequences of allowing such behavior to go unchecked. As detailed in yesterday's article in the Dickinson Press, incidences like this have happened before as a direct result of the actions of our current city administrator and HR manager. Their actions have already resulted in a lawsuit against our city and have once again called into question city's leadership's integrity. They need to be held accountable for their actions before something like this happens again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Does anyone else have any comments on items not on the agenda this evening? If anyone's watching online, 701-456-7006.
So first off, these are my last pair of clean prescriptions, so if you need me to take these off, that's perfectly fine. But good afternoon, Commission. My name is Dean Kluwer with Dean Kluwer and Son Painting here in Dickinson, and coming to you today from a concerned mother that I met this weekend at our event at the Big Six game. And in our conversation, the one thing that stuck with me is she was confused and actually unaware of the fact of how she could actually approach from the cemetery of what occurred, affected first for their items on their graves.
I think at that meeting, we had talked about the individuals contacting Mr. Prouse at Public Works.
But if they don't know to do that, that's my question for you, is how are you letting them know that they need to reach out to Aaron Prouse? Are you sending an email? I mean, it's free to post on Facebook as a post.
We couldn't send an email to someone unless they reached out first to us.
But if they don't know yet, as far as what has occurred, like the mother that reached out to me there when I was just in conversation.
Has she contacted anyone at the city?
She wasn't aware that she could do that process. That's what I'm just letting you know, that they don't know that they could do it. So as far as they know, all they received was just an apology, nothing past that. And so as far as just a clean wash of hands, if they're not made aware, that's easier to smooth over than actually reaching out to the community. I mean, a shepherd's only as good as the flock.
I'm confused, Mr. Kluwer.
Yep.
What are you asking for?
What I'm asking is just the steps that you're taking to let those people be aware as far as how to be reimbursed for.
Okay, I thought we said at that meeting that anyone, but everybody doesn't have Facebook, Mr. Kluwer. So, but we'll go through that step, and then what other
right?
Media.
But it's just a step, and it's free.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, and I apologize. I guess I thought we were clear in that a lot of people that were here or watching were aware that they should contact him, but we'll take some additional steps to try to take care of those individuals, be it social media or whatever other platform that we have.
Okay. Well, again, I was just bringing it up for her on there, and sorry, ma'am, not talking to you right now, but just looking at the camera, she is watching, or however it may be. I forgot your name, but again, hopefully these actions just console you for it. Again, thank you guys.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Kluwer.
Mr. President, can we take a 5-minute recess for a bathroom
Sure.
break?
Let me ask real quick if anyone additionally wants to come up, and then I'll close public comments and take a break, and we'll go back into the normal agenda. Anyone else wish to come up for public comments? Anyone? Not, we'll close the public comment section of the public hearing. We'll take a 5-minute break. We'll return to the regular agenda. First item up is the Finance Committee report.
Thank you, President Decker. On the Finance Committee update, it's to inform the public that we have an opening for a citizen that would be interested in fulfilling a 1-year term with our Finance Committee. The Finance Committee is made up of the mayor, the city commissioner, the city administrator, the deputy city administrator, a finance staff, the city attorney, plus 2 citizens from the community, one at a 2-year term and one at a 1-year term. The purpose of the Finance Committee is to assist the Board of City Commissioners in fulfilling its responsibilities with respect to oversight of the city's financial management and resources, and to help focus on expected outcomes and potential strategies for overcoming setbacks or changes in the financial environment. The Finance Committee is also charged with ensuring compliance and or developing policies. If anyone is interested in applying for a 1-year term on the Finance Committee, please go to the city's website. Right underneath the banner, you click on the forms and applications, and in the column there you will click Citizen Interest Form. Once you have chosen the Finance Committee, down there you will also see the bylaws are attached to it now, and so that you can read that, so you can know what you're getting into for the Finance Committee, and then sign a signature line. You can also download that form and hand it in personally if you want to, but please attach it asks for a biography and or a resume from the citizen. So with that, we're hoping that somebody will fill out an interest form, and again, the term is for 1 year and it runs from July 1 to June 30th. And that's my update report.
Thank you, Mrs. Carlson. Any questions on the citizen opening? Okay, we'll move into our monthly financial report.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioners. So this is for the month of May. Our treasurer's report is at around $68,000. That's our cash that we earn the interest on at 3.82%. Then our investments are in there around $36 million. We also have 4 CDs that are currently at these rates and terms, and we do have 2 that are coming due in July on that. To get into our revenues, our 1% sales tax, we are way up, $294,000 over 2023, and the May total went up in the 1% sales tax of $431,000 over April. Why? I can't tell you. I just can't tell you. I'm just thinking nobody reported in April when they should have, to level it out. But
I think it's just, we have this twice a year. Look at October.
Mm-hmm.
It's just when the date falls on the reporting date,
Mm-hmm.
or the required amount when they have to actually file their taxes. And I think it's just the date thing.
Yep, I agree.
Maybe even looking at like a rolling average for the last 3 months or something would be even better. Then you wouldn't have such spikes in those.
But that's how collections are doled out by the state back to us.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep. So the half percent sales tax, same way, it was up by $147,000. Then on the 1.5% sales tax, adding the 2 together, the 5-month total of May is short of $5,408 over the 2023. So we're right up there. Hospitality tax, we're up by $18,209 for the month of May. And then for the 5-month total over 7 years, we're 14.6% higher than 2023. So we've been doing really well on that. Occupancy, that's right in the middle between 23 and 22. So we were $3,942 short of 23 in for that. And then with the occupancy, that is something that is just a pass-through for the city. That goes right to our CVB. But in '24, it's short by $1,214 from the highest, which was in 2023. So we did good. Oil impact, we're 259,000 up from 2023, about 68,000 short of 2022. And then overall, in the 5 months, we're up by 13.68% over 23. And as of the 5-month total, we are now ahead of 23 by $862,000. Our general fund revenue and expenses, out of 5 months, we should be around the 42%. So our collected is ahead of, our collection of revenue is ahead of that benchmark, and our expenses are below that benchmark, is right where we want to be. On the utility, with all the nice rain we've been having and everything, our revenue is down, but then also the expenses are down too. So they're running right there. I will stand for any questions, but staff recommends approval of the financial report.
Thank you, Mrs. Carlson. Any questions on the financial report? If there are no questions, I'd look for a motion.
Go ahead.
I'd move to approve.
Motion to approve the financial report by Commissioner Soboluk,
Second.
second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mrs. Soboluk?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We'll move into public safety. We have a dispatch services joint power agreement with Stark County.
Not sure which one I'm supposed to use here.
Both.
Both?
Be in
Am
stereo.
I not loud enough? Good evening, President Decker and Commissioners. I have for attached, you will find a joint powers agreement related to dispatch services provided to Stark County by the Dickinson Communications Center. An actual formal agreement with Stark County related to dispatch services and operational costs has not been updated for nearly 3 decades. In an effort to ensure equity and establish clarity in dispatch services, Dickinson Police Administration worked closely with Stark County Emergency Management and a Stark County Commission representative to establish the attached joint powers agreement. This agreement incrementally increases Stark County dispatch service costs related to personnel by 8% over a 3-year period. It also establishes a public safety advisory committee meant to provide quality assurance and limited oversight counsel. The joint powers agreement has been reviewed by the city attorney, and city staff recommend approval. This has been a long time coming. Like I said, we're at 3 decades since this has been reviewed. A lot of work was put in by Lieutenant Hannell at the police department and Elena Decker with the Stark County Emergency Management, as well as Administrator Dazinger, bringing this all together to make it happen. There were little bumps in the road on the way, but we come to a copacetic agreement and recommend approval. I did bring some backup in case I have too many questions.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Any questions on this agreement? There are no questions. I'd look for a motion on the dispatch services joint power agreement with Stark County.
Mr. President, move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bear.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mrs. Soboluk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Chief Siani, you have a siren project antenna lease.
I do, President Decker and Commissioners. Once again, another lease. Attached, you will find an equipment location lease agreement associated with the statewide siren radio project. The lease agreement appropriates space on the roof of the PSC as a mounting setting location for a microwave radio antenna required for radio communications associated with the siren radio project. The addition of the antenna will create a redundant
link for radio fail-safe purposes. The lease agreement has been reviewed by the city attorney, and city staff recommends approval. There is no financials associated with this lease. It's just a lease of the area, giving them authorization to set the antenna, and there is no intrusion into the roof itself. It's kind of set on its own without having to be secured specifically to the structure. So.
Thank you, Chief Siani. Any questions on the siren lease? Not, I look for a motion.
I'd move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Sobeluk,
Second.
second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Chief Siani, you have a monthly police report?
I do. Good evening once again, President Decker and Commissioners. This is actually a quasi-quarterly report. I call it quasi because it covers March through May. I'm trying to get on a quarterly schedule. This one was a little clunky, to say the least, so I may try to kick back to a monthly report because there's just so much stuff to cover in a 3-month period for the police department. I miss a lot of stuff, and I have to go back over a lot of things that happened and try to bring clarity to it, and it's hard to do that in a limited amount of time. So with that being said, I'm doing a lot of averages over the past 3 months, although all the statistics will include January and February as well. So bear with me. Dispatch activity over the past 3 months. Dispatch has been averaging, now I say averaging on a monthly basis, 730 emergency calls for service, 4,435 non-emergency calls, and 991 dispatch-initiated calls for service. And like I said, those numbers I'm providing, contrary to the bar graph, is an average for the last 3 months. Police department-specific calls for service are averaging about 2,124 calls for service over the past few months. Over the past 3 months, officers have conducted 831 traffic stops, correlating to a monthly average of 277 traffic stops, 129 citations, and 125 warnings. The top 3 violations addressed were speeding, seatbelt, and driving without liability insurance, which is pretty typical of our traffic enforcement. We investigated 205 accidents over the past 3 months, with a monthly average around 69 accidents. Pretty standard for the amount of accidents we're handling. We're happy to report that in this 3-month period we did not have any fatality-related accidents. Basic property accidents continue to be the predominant accident investigated. There were 460 arrests made, correlating to a monthly average of 153 arrests a month. Majority of these arrests involve some degree of violence, drugs, and/or alcohol. Common theme. This time of the year brings a lot of domestics, and assaults have been happening. We've seen a rash of burglaries in town as well over the past few months, but I'll get into that later in the slides. Arrest classification. On average, officers have made 10 felony arrests, 86 misdemeanors, and 10 infractions per month average over the last 3 months. Criminal investigations were called out 23 times. This correlates an average of 7 call-outs a month, which also correlates to almost 2 call-outs a week. I want to hit on that a little bit because these guys, when they're on call, they pretty much be guaranteed at least 1, potentially likely 2 call-outs, and they really can't, take a breath even when on call. But we'd like to see some of that recognized a little further in on budgetary impact of these guys being on call and being called out on a regular basis like they are. Thought I'd throw that out there. Some of these call-outs are associated with 7 burglaries. Like I said, we had a number of business burglaries over the past few months, 7 death-related investigations. We had a lot of deaths, and 4 sex crimes, to name a few. You can see the other areas of call-outs on the slide. CID handled over 200 new cases and averaged about 67 cases coming in each month. 141 cases were closed with an average of 47 cases closed each month. An average of 4 arrests were made each month by investigations. Now, four arrests each month by investigations doesn't seem like much, but these guys are putting in a lot of time and effort into the investigation itself. It takes a lot of time and effort to bring those to fruition to that arrest stage. Everyone's favorite notable incidents. I got a little generic with this because we've had a lot, and it was hard to determine which ones were actually notable when we go through this. Noted a few in March. A stolen handgun was recovered in Trail County, and subsequent investigation led to the arrest of a male subject for possession of stolen property, and also led us to the person mainly responsible for the theft and sale of said firearm. Charges against parents were sought in connection of a positive meth and cocaine tests of 2 juveniles, an infant and a child in the family. Charges are sought for child abuse, aggravated domestic assault, reckless endangerment, and terrorizing in relation to a man wielding a hammer as a weapon and assaulting and threatening family members. Charges were sought in connection with disseminating obscene materials and promoting sex performance by a minor by means of surreptitious intrusion. That was March. April, I talked about the area businesses. Multiple area businesses were burglarized. Suspect was later identified as 33-year-old George Hanna. Hanna was arrested on multiple felonies after a short pursuit that ended in the field behind the Astoria Hotel. After about 30-minute standoff, that was posted on Facebook and made its rounds through the community, so most are aware of that one. In May, another big one was 2 dogs were poisoned locally. 1 died. 61-year-old James Sawvell was arrested on felony animal cruelty in relation to that case. That's one of the first serious animal neglect and abuse cases that we've investigated in many years. We took it pretty seriously and took it as far as we could go with it. 50 face-to-face sex offender compliance checks were conducted. I was happy that we had no violations identified. Another interesting one is a scam was foiled. An elderly female was intercepted by investigators who had just withdrawn $35,000 to send a scam artist in Florida. We did, I guess it's safe to say it came to a dead end in the Florida end, but we did send that person a package in lieu of the $35,000 and did contact authorities in that local jurisdiction. 50-year-old, and the latest is that 53-year-old Dickinson resident Keith Schmidt went missing on or about May 20th. And that investigation has stagnated to a certain extent, so anyone with any information related to Keith's whereabouts, we certainly encourage contacting the police department at our non-emergency number, or by any means, Badlands Crime Stoppers or others. Behavioral health, we handled 297 behavioral health related calls for service over the past 3 months. Majority of these calls were related to welfare checks. We have been averaging right around 99, 100 behavioral health related calls per month. It's still a problem in Dickinson. It continues to impact us directly and the community. Training, a lot of training was conducted. Staff completed 829 training hours of training over the past 3 months. 126 hours of the training was non-post certified training, which we had both support staff and sworn staff attended that training. Some of the training topics which were non-post certified included leadership training, some de-escalation and initial response to missing children. 703 of the training over the past 3 months was actually post-certified training, getting credit for their licensing. Some of that training consisted of BCI Basic, which is criminal investigations training, which is a sought-after course we use to prepare staff coming into CID, and others. SROs we try to get our SROs through that too. Blue to Gold training, which it covers multiple law enforcement topics from report writing to courtroom testimony to traffic stops. Taser and firearms instructor courses were also included in training, amongst others. Records fingerprinted an average of 35 individuals each month. They averaged 19 sex offender registrations and processed an average of 41 warrants or summonses. The animal shelter, animal control handled 397 calls for service over the past 3 months. That equates to approximately 132 calls for service on average. As you can see, the majority of the calls handled by animal control predominantly are animals running at large and other citizens-initiated complaints. The shelter impounded 130 dogs and 110 cats, basically 43 dogs and 37 cats a month in average. 19 animals remain at the pound, 13 cats and 6 dogs. Most of the animals brought into the pound were strays, although we had 47 surrenders and 4 bite-related impounds. School resource officers were winding down during this period. Our college resource officer at DSU responded to 3 calls for service associated with investigative reports. No summonses or referrals. Now, the numbers I'm giving you now are as if it's a call for service at one of the schools in which they generate a report for. These guys do a lot more than just these calls for service at the schools. They respond to counseling sessions. They do instruction. They do a number of different things that we're not tracking with an actual number or requires any investigative reporting. So I felt these numbers were more pure for you to see that this is generating actual numbers and activity in the schools. Dickinson High School had 85 calls for service resulting in investigative reports. Of those cases, 4 adult summonses, 18 juvenile summonses were issued along with 4 juvenile referrals. In the Dickinson Middle School, we had 65 calls for service associated with investigative reports, with 15 juvenile summonses issued. On the elementary level, there was 23 calls for service associated with investigative reports. No summons were issued or referrals in that period. Community service coordinator was busy with a number of events, including we had Touch a Truck during this period, Kids Health and Safety Fair we participated in, DHS prom, DSU graduation, DARE program. The DARE program graduated 333 fifth graders from all the six elementary schools. That happened in April. Threw this one in there, the big thank you to the Dickinson Legion Post number 3. They did donate $5,000 to go toward the development of a new police recruitment video, and that's going to be geared toward some of our military veterans in the area and the nation. That component was a requirement of this donation. We'll be working on that along with some budgeted funds for this recruitment video, and hope it's going to be a good video. Give us a little bit more. Community relations, on May 18th, we christened Heroes Park with a ribbon cutting at West River Community Center grounds. Reminder, funding for the park, this has been an ongoing project for a few years, trying to get this come to fruition. Funding for the park was derived through proceeds from the Heroes Ball from both fire and police contributed to this little park. I know the fire got a heavy on the fire side once again. I don't know how that happens, but I guess it's easier to find a statue of a Dalmatian than it is a German Shepherd, so that's what they tell me anyway, but it is what it is, I guess. Heroes Ball, we had another very successful and sold out Heroes Ball was held on April 6th at the August House. Thank you to all of our sponsors and those who supported the event. Proceeds, as you know, are distributed amongst police, fire, and domestic violence shelter. And some of those funds are redistributed out to the community for community events and programs and things like the Heroes Park. 15th annual Daddy-Daughter Dance was held over the 3-night period, April 18th through the 20th at the August House. This is our most popular community event, and it's sold out every year and with waiting lists. And that's why it got extended to 3 nights, but they're still filling up. Over 950 total were in attendance for the Daddy-Daughter Dance. Skate with a Cop was held at West River Ice Center on April 21st. Attendance was slightly down after having to push the original date due to that spring snowstorm once again in end of March. It was still well attended. There was a lot of other things going on in the community. We typically have better attendance than we did, but it's still a great event, and we'll continue. Promotions, we had 2 communication specialists, Angie Jones and Andrea Little, who were promoted Public Safety Telecommunicators 2s. Their ceremony was held on May 20th and implemented a new swearing-in ceremony for promotions for the dispatchers, so that they can have some type of pinning ceremony as well, similar to what the officers do. Also implementing an oath of office for the dispatchers to better bestow evaluation on what they do as part of the intricate pieces of the department and their contributions to the system. A welcome, we had a number of new hires over the past few months. Brianna Jones, from left to right, Brianna Jones joined our dispatch team. Blaine Rieger and Isabel Chadwick joined our records team, and Israel Sosa joined our animal control team. Moving on to patrol, we did have new additions to the patrol division from left to right again. Officer Terrence Dillinger, Officer Anthony Mauser, Officer Derek Miller, Officer Jaden Claxton, and Officer Matthew Shigun. A number of these new officers were already introduced to you and the community during the swearing-in ceremony that was just not too long ago. It's good to note that 3 of the 5 officers pictured joined us having experience or having already been licensed. I'm happy to say that we are fully staffed in dispatch, we are fully staffed in animal control, we are fully staffed in records, and we hit the highest number of sworn staff that I've seen in the past 10 years. So we still have 4 openings, but it's looking promising. That I'm hoping that we can be fully staffed by the end of the year, but no promises, but we're trying hard. I think the staff has went through a lot over the past few months. They've been training a lot. There's been some burnout, but everyone is feeling the light at the end of the tunnel. Once these staff get fully trained and on board, we're going to be doing well. And I think you're going to see the difference and a little bit of skipping the step from here on out. But with that, we open any questions.
Thank you, Chief Siani. Any questions for the chief? Busy 3 months. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Move into our community development, and I do not see, are you covering for Mr. Josephson or the rezoning request for South Fork Acres? So it has Mr. Josephson on there, so.
Yes, Mr. Josephson had a prior engagement, so
Okay.
I'll be filling in for him. For some reason, this is out of order.
Yeah, first one up, I have rezone South Fork Acres first. You guys have the same?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So good evening, Mr. President, Commissioners. If you're considering is a zoning map amendment from agricultural AG to rural residential for a 51.11 acre subdivision located in the city's extraterritorial zone. The property is currently legally described as Lot 1B, Block 2 of South Fork Acre subdivision. In this case, the rezone was approved by Planning and Zoning Commission, and ultimately this is the second hearing. We intended to bring the plat with to this meeting, but ultimately, as we were working through some of the development agreement stuff and whatever else, we just weren't able to complete all the reviews and everything else. So that you should see at the July 2nd meeting. But with that said, we just figured we'd move the rezone forward. So no changes to the rezone from the first hearing, and community development staff and Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Skolacek. This is the second reading and the final passage of Ordinance 1797. Are there any questions on this rezone request? Not, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. Go ahead.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bear,
Second.
second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Solak?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Our next, Energy Center, sixth final plat.
Good evening again, Mr. President, Commissioners. Before you is a final plat, a final major plat for Energy Center 6th subdivision. And with this plat application, some of the things that are included with it are a right-of-way dedication to the city of Dickinson, and then creation of 5 lots, and some of the attributes for, oops, there it was. Some of the attributes for the right-of-way dedication. Ultimately, this will be a local street as defined in as our typical roadway section in the transportation master plan. And then with the right-of-way dedication, this ultimately gives the primary access out of the North Dakota National Guard Readiness Center, which that was the intended primary access for that facility, and then opens up and gives the city access to the rest of the property, in which the city owns to the north and a little bit to the west of this. So with that development agreement, there was very minor edits made to the development agreement from what you see in your packet. For that, we had the city attorney review the development agreement. There were a couple minor things added as far as miscellaneous language, but the general intent is still there. With the development agreement, the main key attributes we actually just submitted yesterday for the Department of Defense grant that would be related to the Public Safety Training Center, but the roadway associated within this plat, that was actually included for key infrastructure and access for not only the Readiness Center, but also for the Public Safety Training Center. With that, there is then a acknowledgement that we'd make 2 attempts at this Department of Defense grant, and then ultimately, if we're still not successful with that Department of Defense grant after 2 attempts, then there would be a renegotiation. There's also some language that was tagged in by City Attorney Wanko for acknowledgement if, in fact, the full grant amount wasn't awarded, or if bids came in higher than estimates, then how would that ultimately, that would be a renegotiation or rediscussion of how we would address the cost share. And in discussions with the applicant, they're more than agreeable to coming back to the table and having a discussion at that time if, in fact, those concerns need to be addressed. So with that, the applicant's representatives here. Otherwise, we stand for any questions, and staff recommends approval.
Okay, this is Resolution 1780. Any questions on the agreement?
President Decker, it would be 30-2024 for a
What's that?
resolution. The resolution would be
Okay.
30-2024.
It's not an ordinance, a resolution. Oh, yeah, excuse me. You're correct. I'm looking at ordinance. I'm backwards. I should add a Snickers or something. 30. Thank you, Mrs. Carlson. 30-2024. Are there any questions on the agreement for the Energy Center 6 final plat? Not, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Frederick,
Second?
second by Commissioner Soboluk. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Soboluk?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Next up is the DSU Second Edition final plat.
Good evening again, Mr. President and Commissioners. This is the final major plat for the DSU Athletic Complex Second Edition. In this case, the final plat includes a right-of-way dedication along State Avenue, and that was previously covered with a right-of-way easement prior to the mill and overlay project along State Avenue, but in this case, this kind of cleans up and addresses that right-of-way as a full dedication. One other attribute, so previously last year, the plat was approved for basically the northern half of this area. In this case, the intent of replatting the entirety of this area was so that there was no lot line to create any kind of setback requirements or other limitations as the DSU group ultimately works through their ag facility expansion. With that said, staff and Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval, and the applicant's representative is here with any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Skolacek. This is Resolution 31-2024. Are there any questions for city staff or the applicant's representative? Not, I look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Bear.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Soboluk. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Dr. Bear.
Aye.
Ms. Soboluk.
Aye.
Mr. Frederick.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Moving into item D, the sanitary sewer manhole repair project contract with Moore Engineering. Mr. Skolacek.
Good evening, Mr. President and Commissioners. Having a little bit of challenges with the slides. I'm not seeing the vicinity maps, I guess. I believe they were attached with your
Yes,
your
we have
packet.
them.
So for your consideration is a contract with Moore Engineering Incorporated to provide engineering services for the sanitary sewer manhole repair project for an hourly not to exceed amount of $29,000. Legal review of this has been completed. So originally, taking a step back in time just a little bit, there was a request for services for City Project 2024-14 that was related to 10th Avenue East from Villard to Museum Drive. In that scope of work, that was intended to be a mill and overlay project. As part of the scope of work, a request was included to review the sanitary sewer manholes within the vicinity of that project area. There were some concerns or some feedback from Public Works staff related to H2S gas being its downstream of the lift station. As part of the review, included in your packet is a series of images of some of the condition within the sanitary sewer manholes. In particular, it's difficult to see this without having done the level of inspection that was included with the scope of work for this project. If you just simply look down the manhole and, for example, just take a picture down into the manhole, oftentimes much of the damage can't necessarily be identified very clearly. There is a pretty significant variation in circumstances. We have some of the total 21 manholes that were currently inspected. Conditions range from good condition, so therefore no deterioration, to circumstances where previously epoxy coating had been completed and now we have missing epoxy coating and mortar has been severely deteriorated. In one case in particular, there's actually part of the rebar cage that's in fact exposed. So as an effort between engineering and public works staff, we looked at basically all manholes that are downstream of lift stations and included a total of 45 that we propose be inspected. The inspection included like a 3D camera that was actually dropped down into the manhole on a stick, and so not actually performing any confined space entry or anything like that, but does an excellent job of documenting what the image is within that manhole. So our proposal
Well,
is
I
that...
can tell the general public that you may not be seeing these, but they're pretty gross. So it's sanitary sewer, just picture that and a hole in the ground, so.
So with this, the request then back to Moore Engineering was proposed that they look at a total of 45 additional sanitary sewer manholes throughout town. We're taking a holistic approach with this, not just trying to focus in on one corridor, but looking more holistically across the entirety of the city limits. And aid in advising in recommendations based on the inspection results, similar to what was provided in your packet for those manholes that were along the 10th Avenue East corridor. From there, we will look at a contract amendment that will look to define what exactly the scope of work, fee estimate, and total schedule will be to complete the rest of the engineering services related to putting together a bid package and then through bid support for the project. Right now, we anticipate completing the engineering services in the calendar year of 2024. Most likely manhole repairs, if everything were to go very, very well, we would try to get some of this started in the end of 2024. But just being honest with the timeline, and most contractors are fairly full already with work, most likely we wouldn't be able to start much of any of the repairs until the construction season of 2025. With that, engineering and public works staff recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Skolacek. Any questions on this agreement for the sanitary sewer manhole repair project contract with Moore Engineering? Not, I look for a motion.
I'd move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Sobeluk.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bear. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Moving into the Sim Street and Utility Quality Control Contract Amendment to American Engineering and Testing. Mr. Skolacek?
Good evening, Mr. President and Commissioners. For your consideration is a contract amendment with American Engineering Testing Incorporated to provide quality control testing services for the Sim Street and Utility Project for an amount not to exceed $25,084. The original contract was approved by the City Commission for Geotechnical Engineering Services at the September 19th, 2023 City Commission meeting. And legal review has been completed of this contract. City engineering staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Skolacek. Any questions on this quality control contract with American Engineering Testing? There are no questions. I'd look for a motion.
Ms. Sobeluk, this could be your last one.
Okay, well, I'll move to approve.
There you go.
Second.
You got the manholes and the
Well,
quality
you
control. There you go.
All things important to a mom at home.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Sobeluk, a second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Ms. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Dr. Bear?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. That's it for that. So we're into commission. Commissioners, anything?
Well, I'd just like to thank the city for allowing me to serve for the last 4 years. It's been an honor to be part of the city, and well, I'll continue to be part of the city, but just to sit up here and to be the voice for a lot of people of the community, and hopefully someday when the kids are out of the house, I can serve on some of these fun things again.
Well, thank you so much for the past 4 years.
Yeah, it's been
It
a
is
pleasure working
really
with you,
appreciate
Susan.
it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else, commissioners? All right, look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There we go. We are adjourned.
guess,